themselves many things. The one thing they don't.
The controversy continues over the name of Washington's NFL team. Should stations risk losing their broadcast license for using the name Redskins? Tonight, the feds are considering that move, but is it the right move? Welcome back to Let It Rip. So what's in the name? Well, a lot of controversy. Fox 2 Sports Director Dan Miller back now. He's joined by Rico Beard, photojournalist, editor, and a graduate of Michigan State. Also the other half of the team of Ryan and Rico, heard on Detroit Sports 105.1 FM.
Correct.
Weekdays, 10 a.m.
Well,
and of course, you've all met Coach William Tandy and Charlie LEDUFF. He is both Native American, part African American, and
watch this, I can do a Charlie Langton. The thing about it,
and also part Charlie Langton. Rico, let's start with you. Should a broadcast station or radio station lose its license for using a derogatory name like Redskins?
No, but I think this is the end-around way to get the team to change their name. Because if the announcers can't say it, then they're not going to get the publicity that they were looking for. And then Washington and Daniel Snyder's going to have to change it and fix the problem. Because right now, they just won't go after the problem and say, Mr. Snyder, please change. And he's saying, no, I paid $1 billion for this team. It's my toy. You can't tell me how to play.
And what about his First Amendment rights? His right to free speech?
Well, what about I mean, it's a derogatory name, Yul. I mean, you wouldn't, I'm quite sure if it was the Detroit Darkies, people wouldn't be like, oh, well, you know, it's been around since the 1920s, and, you know, they got a little Sambo on the helmet, so it's cool because we've just enjoyed it like that. But it's not. It's a minority that's a very small minority that's not that vocal. So because they're not really, you know, fighting it with the numbers that other minorities have, the team name will probably stay. Dan
Miller, you grew up a Washington Redskins fan.
Yeah, it's interesting because I will tell you this. In growing up and going to the games every week, we had season tickets. We never thought of the Redskins as having anything to do with an Indian other than what was on the helmet. They were just a football team. But I think what I have grown to learn is this isn't for me to be offended by. This is for people that are offended by it that I should respect. And I believe that. I mean, it's, you know, we have a lot of other names out there that you can use that don't offend part of our society. And I think you should respect that. And it's, again, this name never meant anything more to me growing up than a football team. Even though the Indian was on the side of the helmet, never meant anything more than football, but I respect the people that say that it's offensive to them, and it's defined as such.
Coach Sandy, names change all the time. The Washington Warriors were once called the Washington Bullets.
Absolutely. But I have to agree with everyone in what they're saying. It's offensive. And if we started using names that offended other cultures, we would have to take a look at that. And so you sit down and, as you said, what if it was the New York Negroes? Some people would say that's okay, but a lot of us would be offended. And if it offends someone, we need to have the temerity to stand up and have that fight for them as well. Their voices have been silenced. They have been abused and taken advantage of, speaking of natives, for years. And we know how long this goes back. So now they're finally standing up and saying, hey, let's stop this. And I think we should all get together and fight that fight with them and tell them it needs to change.
Well, you not only have the Washington Redskins, but Charlie, you went down to Cleveland where you showed us the symbol of the Cleveland Indians, Chief Wahoo.
Yeah, come on, look at this. Look at this. Look at that. Where's the camera? Look at that. That is a little red Sambo. Look at that. That's outrageous. You know, people blow me up on Twitter and Facebook, and that honors the Indian. I'm like, look, I know a lot of Indian people. My grandma's Indian. I'm Indian. Nobody's honored by this. Nobody is, period. Like, okay, it's not going to hurt the majority culture to give it up a little bit. It's not going to displace you. I know maybe society's changing, but there's a part for all of us. Like you said, it's simply a gesture to your fellow man that you respect him.
Charlie, it's the same as, you can get rid of that. You saw the same thing with Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben on the boxes. They changed them. They modernized them.
Guess
they
what?
took it away from being a slave and from being a house slave.
Would you wear a little black Sambo cap in East Detroit if you were white? Would you do that? No, because you know what happened. And there's no way you can tell me you'd walk on the Pine Ridge Reservation and tell a guy, "What's up, Redskin?" or be walking around with this, because you know what that means. Like, and if you don't agree with me, cool, but time's on my side.
And yet the owner of the team refuses to change the name. He says he's not going to do it, no matter what.
I don't mean to give away my level of intellect, but I will, because I enjoyed it. If you didn't see the most current edition of South Park, watch it, because it's brilliant. It's amazing satire, and they turn all of Dan Snyder's arguments around and put them right back on him, and you're watching it and you say, I can't believe they just did that, but it's brilliant. Honestly, I can't do it justice. Watch it, and you'll understand just the fallacy of his argument and just the lack of depth any of his reasons for keeping that name has.
Now, having said, again, back to your question, though, should the federal government step in and muzzle people? No. I'm a First Amendment person. Like, it just has to be by the strength of argument in people's guts and hearts.
So no FCC rules regarding this whatsoever?
No, but it's an end around. It's the way to get the team to change the name without going to
keep the government
Snyder.
out of pop culture.
Because, you know, like I said, for me, I don't. When I'm on the radio show, I just say the team from Washington. I don't use the name because I see how it is very offensive, and I don't want to just keep perpetuating it by saying it over and over again.
I spoke to a Native American leader tonight who was going to join us for Let It Rip, but who decided otherwise because he was somewhat afraid of the backlash. He's a businessman, lives in Farmington Hills, very successful. But he was afraid that if he came on this show, there might be backlash from other business leaders.
Brother, you got to do that. You got to come on and speak up, brother. You got to do it, or
there's going to be backlash. I mean, I get backlash from, I get nasty tweets, emails, text messages. Who are you? You're making too big of a deal out of this. It's just a football team. But why does everything have to be racial? And I'm like, really?
In the PC argument.
Right, and the whole PC thing. And
right is right and wrong is wrong. And he's doing that because of his sense of privilege and his sense of entitlement. This is my billion-dollar toy. I paid for it. Be gone. Don't tell me what to do. And someone needs to sit down, hit them in the pocket. Because they respect.
But that's just the point, Coach Tandy. There are fans who will support that team no matter what. The Redskins are the most popular team in the NFL, one of them. But they make money hand over fist, no matter what you call.
You know what? They'll support that team if they change the name.
And look at
they'll support that. You know what? This is everything's usually okay until it lands on your front porch.
I was about to say,
when it's on somebody else's front porch, it's okay. But when it doesn't hurt you or cut you to the core or hit you with something that you consider to be a slur, a lot of times people can put up with that. Sometimes
guarantee
you need to be bigger.
He wouldn't change the name to a Jewish slur. I guarantee he wouldn't do it.
He wouldn't even, let's go back there.
He wouldn't do it because that would hit him hard. Because that would be something offensive to him.
You could say the Hebrews, which isn't a slur. You'd never do that. You would never do that. We don't even use the word Negro. We don't use Chicano. What's with the Redskin? Let's just be honest about where we're at. You're right, it's a very small group of people don't have enough power. Well, maybe they do. Eventually.
And that same leader told me this. He said, Huel, I want you to understand, I don't like the name Redskins. I do find it offensive, but there are bigger problems in my community than just that name.
Yeah.
We have bigger fish to fry. We have other problems we need to address than this.
Well, look, it's not the topic of Let It Rip tonight, though. Sure, we got a lot of problems in this country, right? 80% of America doesn't see a problem with this or the Redskins, so it's a long uphill thing.
I do believe there will come a time where the pressure will become so immense that they will change the name. I just find it hard to believe that this is going to go away. I think at some point the other NFL owners will have to get behind it because Roger Goodell has not forced the team. The other owners have not forced the team. I do think there will come a point where the pressure will be so great they will have to change.
So it's not the FCC, but the NFL that must be the hammer here.
I believe at some point that will happen.
Absolutely.
I do too.
And we all know the NFL's been doing a fine job as of late.
Well, there's always the future.
Go Lions.
Thank you. And thank you for watching this edition of Let It Rip.
Absolutely.
The Let It Rip discussion continues online. Sound off on Facebook, Twitter, or myfoxdetroit.com.